So we're on the second half of chapter 31. And I'll tell you soon where we're up to in the whole story of the Tanya. But I'll start with a very nice story that will illustrate a little bit of what we're going to do today. There were two brothers that had a big fight. They were not getting along at all. And they stopped talking. Many years they weren't talking. Now one of the brothers is marrying his daughter. And he felt that his brother should come to the wedding. And he invited him, he called him, and the brother, there's no way he's going to the wedding. And so the day of the wedding, he didn't want to go to the wedding at all. What did he do? He shut off his phone, he shut off everything, and he put on pajamas and went to sleep so that he wanted to be sleeping the whole wedding so that nothing should bother him and he shouldn't think and shouldn't have any concept, any thought of maybe going to that wedding. No way. Meanwhile, the brother that's marrying his daughter really he's like, where is he? I want him to come. I made every effort in advance for him to tell him that he should come. I want him to come. How am I going to get him to come? And the idea that he had is to do, to wake up somebody and get him to move his feet and get to a place without realizing is with very soft music. So he sent somebody with a violin to the house, by the window of the house, and start making some soft music. And the man woke up and he's like, where's the soft music coming from? And without realizing, he's getting out of his bed, looking for this violin. And he's with his pajamas and he's walking out the door and he's looking for this man in the violin. And the man in the violin is slowly walking to the wedding hall. And he's following in the middle of his sleep. He's following. He's sleepwalking in his pajamas to the wedding hall. And he's arriving at the wedding hall, and the brother is so happy, and they're dancing away. Two brothers finally so happy, dancing, completely forgetting how they're dressed. He's all into the dancing, all into the excitement of the wedding and everything. Like he literally was caught and brought there. And at the end, he's realizing, whoops, I'm still wearing my pajamas. So back to business. What does this pajamas symbolize? Is there a value to the fact that he still came to the wedding even though he was in pajamas? Is it still nice that he came to the wedding, or he shouldn't have come at all? So what we see is that the relationship between the two brothers is there's two parts to it. On one hand, there's a natural love, there's a deep love between them. And he came to the wedding and they danced together at the wedding. So that's you can't take that away. They were very happy. And he was happy for his brother marrying his daughter. They were very, very happy. On the other hand, he's still hurt. There's still some hurt inside. And inside, there's also still some anger, some hurt, everything. And that's why he decided to go to sleep in his pajamas and not be at the wedding. But in the end, somehow what pulled him is that love. There was something about the love that pulled him. But it doesn't mean, the fact that he danced with his brother doesn't mean that the hurt is gone. They're both there, okay? So, yes, the hurt is still here. It still needs to be taken care of. But at the same time, there's a huge value to the fact that he still came to the wedding, even though he came with pajamas. There's both at the same time. And the fact that he came and danced shows on the deep love. There's something really amazing about it. And we have the same
Today children going to school.
Today the kids go to school in pajamas, but they go to school, you see, same idea.
When my daughter said a long time ago she wants to wear pajama pants, I said, what's wrong with you? She said,
everybody does. They come comfortably dressed, but at least they come and they learn. And we have the same thing actually in our spiritual lives, okay? Our neshama wants to connect to Hashem and dances with Hashem and comes to the wedding with Hashem and does mitzvot. And we say, and we light the candles, we say, Asher Kedishanu Mitzvah V'Tzivanu, and I love you, Hashem, and I'm lighting the candles. I come to Rosh Hashanah, I'm going to listen to the shofar. I'm doing all these mitzvot, and I love Hashem, and I'm dancing at this wedding with Hashem. On the other hand, we still have pajamas on. We still have a body that's attracted to the physical things in this world. We're wearing pajamas and we're dancing with Hashem. Yeah.
Like, I heard if it's true, like, when you go into the washroom in pajama, you shouldn't say,
Asher Yatza?
Asher Yatza.
I don't think
thought
that's
only when
true.
we
Maybe
finish to sleep.
you mean if you go in the middle of the night?
You
shouldn't
meant
say?
in the middle of the night or when you wake up?
I don't think it has to do with the pajamas. I don't think
No.
But let's say I'm in the middle of the night,
I
if I'm
don't
going to
say.
the bathroom and doing Netilat Yadayim,
I don't
is it
do
okay
that.
to say Sheyatza?
I think you should, but maybe
I-
the person that told you is because maybe you're not dressed nude or
Yeah, well.
But we should be dressed nude also at night.
like-
But I'm saying
It's not kind of kavod, I don't know.
so maybe if you're not dressed properly,
Well,
that's when it's not.
pajama.
Yeah.
You know, if I'll say Asher Yatzar, when I go to the bathroom at night, I finish to sleep. That's it.
Okay, listen,
Well-
but I don't think there's any rule like per se that you should
No,
not.
I'm
Right,
not
so
saying
that's what you were
it's
asking.
true, just someone said it and I thought.
Maybe it depends on the
But-
nuances that the circumstances.
But when we do tshuva, we are compared to someone with pajamas.
So
I
we'll
can
talk
do-
about it.
yeah.
Yes, we're always
Not
going to be wearing
prepared.
pajamas. We're always going to be wearing pajamas because in the end of the game, the pajamas is that's what we're going to. The
Okay.
pajamas is our body.
Okay.
And our body is physical and our body is forever because we're not a tzaddik, we're a Beinani. We're always going to have this attraction to physical things in this world. So we're forever going to be wearing pajamas.
Okay.
And we're forever going to still dance with Hashem. And hello, welcome.
Actually, it's like all those that came from the Arabic countries and they wear all day pajamas and play shaykhbet. You remember?
Yeah, in Morocco, yeah.
You have same place.
There's no Jews being hurt.
No,
But no, it's not where my grandparents were. It's Marrakesh.
Yeah.
You're from Marrakesh, yeah? Yeah, it's
What's
from Mercy.
happening?
There was an earthquake there.
I know.
My nephew was in the and I called me, I texted him on Saturday night and he said, I'm fine. I'm like, nothing happened there.
I heard that the Israelis sent over
Yeah,
rescue and they didn't find, and no Israelis were hurt.
Right.
No?
Yeah.
No.
But they were Israelis there, I saw the. clip.
Yeah, they were, but nobody's dead,
Yeah,
like
It's
nobody's.
because they wore pajamas.
Okay, no, we're talking about pajamas today. Okay, you'll get into it. Anyways, so the pajamas that we wear is our body constantly, okay? And the idea what we're going to learn is that we're going to learn today is that we can still be happy with the Torah and mitzvot, and we can still enjoy the Torah and mitzvot, even though we're wearing pajamas. And we're going to see that we're going to say that these pajamas are really made of skin of snake. Okay, we'll deal with it soon.
Oh, yeah.
The skin of the snake. Okay, we'll deal with it soon. So
Yeah.
we're
know
in the
that.
section of the Tanya where we have a guide for how to be happy, right? And what we did until now, we dealt a lot with sadness, with what brings us to sadness and how to get out of it. And now we're going back to literally be happy. And we'll see that even though our body takes us down and our body takes us to and sometimes it's our body is so low and we realize that we're such a low person because we're attracted to such terrible things, but still we're going to see that how are we happy? We're happy when our soul, our neshama is free from the body. The body is making the body, the person captive of the body, like we're like in jail because we're attracted to all these materialistic things, and we're free out of that prison when we are doing what our neshama wants. That brings true happiness. Actually, I heard a very cute example. I mean, there's studies that say, how much money do you need if you have a family with 4 kids? And the studies show that everybody said that they need more than what they have. Like it's a little bit more than what they have. And also the studies show that every year that amount grows. Like whatever you had last year, you need more now. Whatever your salary is, you need more now. Which means basically you never have enough. You're never happy. You never feel satisfied. Like whatever you have, you want more. And that's physical. But spiritually, if we do mitzvot, it brings us to true, real happiness that you don't like, okay, you want more. You want more connection with Hashem, but it gives a certain satisfaction, a certain peace, etc. Anyway, now we're going to see. So what we're going to see now is that. Okay. So it's very interesting. If you look at people that came back, that did the Chazru b'Tshuva, that came back to Judaism that were not religious and then became religious. And people say that becoming a Choser B'Tshuva, becoming religious, was the happiest thing in their life. It's like the best thing, something amazing happened. As hard as it was, like it's very interesting. Like how come people are so happy to do this? They have to change over their lives. It's very, very hard. You have to leave certain friends, leave certain foods, leave certain habits, leave the Shabbat, the Saturday, and come to something new. And you're like, it's very nice. I like it. It makes me so happy. Like people are not complaining. They're like, this is so much better. And how come, even though it's harder, people are happier? So we need to understand what brings a person to happiness. Do you know?
And fulfilled
Exactly, fulfillment. Like when you feel that you accomplished, when you feel like you reached what you want, and like when you do what you really want, that's what makes you happy. So we all have things in our, like, even though sometimes it's hard to reach it, you know, like reaching a diploma or reaching something, it takes a lot of effort, but at the end when you reach it, that brings you to the biggest happiness because you reached something that you really wanted. You got to a place of self-fulfillment. That brings to true happiness. So now we can understand also the happiness of a Choser B'Tshuva, like somebody that comes to Tshuva. We learned that as much as the body, like the animalistic soul, is very low, and they draw the person down, but at the same time, we also know that we all have a neshama that pulls the person up, that is actually a piece of Hashem, and this neshama wants to connect to Hashem. And when this neshama comes down in this world, the body bothers him, but the neshama, all he wants is to do mitzvot. And as soon as neshama is doing a mitzvah, he's feeling accomplished. He fought over the body, he won, and he's feeling like he did something. He's starting to do a mitzvah, and he's coming closer to Hashem. He's freeing his neshama from the body, and that brings him to the true happiness, to amazing happiness. There's a very, like, if you look at the Alter Rebbe, the one who wrote the Tanya, he was in jail, and in jail there was a lot of issues physically, but he still was able to, he wrote the Tanya in jail. He's still like so on one hand he wasn't able to spread the Chassidut. It was very hard for him to do it the way he wanted. But the second he was freed from jail, it was the truest happiness, the biggest happiness, because he was able to do what he wants. As soon as he was able to do what he wants, that was the biggest joy for the Chassidim and for everybody, because he was accomplishing what he wants. Also, like, if you see the stories that the Alter Rebbe went through, he wanted to do a mitzvah to bless the moon on the middle of the month when the moon was full, and he was on this boat, and he wanted to do a mitzvah, and the person he told the person driving the boat, you need to stop the boat so that I can do the blessing on the moon. The driver was like, hello, no way. But miraculously the boat stopped, and he felt totally accomplished. He felt totally like, this is like the biggest joy that he could have, that he was able to do the mitzvah. Like this is all he needed. He didn't care about anything else. All he needed is to be able to accomplish, to let the neshama do what he wants. That's the biggest win, and that's the biggest joy. So it's very interesting that, so now you understand that even though a person does tshuva, like leaves a lot of things behind and changes over his life, as hard as it is, it's specifically the mitzvot that are letting the neshama free. And that's why he's feeling in a better place. So now, what about people that grew up religious and didn't have that turnover, or didn't go through this hardship? Can they also be happy? So tshuva is not just returning from all the sins. Tshuva means going back. That's why I'm saying it's a chavati that we're learning this today right before Rosh Hashanah. Tshuva is going back to Hashem. It's returning to God, doing what your soul wants. Your soul wants to connect to Hashem. Your soul was distant from Hashem, and now it wants to return to Hashem. So, like when the neshama was put in a body, it became very far from Hashem. Like it used to be before the neshama comes into the body, it's so close to Hashem, and now it became very far. And all the person wants is to return to Hashem. And by doing mitzvot, that's what he does. Okay, so even though a person is religious, the neshama is captive in the body. The neshama doesn't do what he wants, because the neshama is in the body that wants to do all this materialistic thing of the world. But there's this something inside, there's a neshama that's pulling him to do, like there's this fight inside of us. The neshama pulls him to do something for Hashem, and when he does a mitzvah, he's freeing the neshama. And freeing the neshama brings even a religious Jew or any person to happiness, literally through doing a mitzvah. So that's why when we do a mitzvah, it's supposed to bring the biggest happiness. Like, and we'll see the words of the Alter Rebbe, how there's no bigger joy for a person when the neshama is freed from this captivity. Like it's the biggest joy when a person does the mitzvah. There's no bigger joy to leave the body and connect to Hashem. So we're going to look soon at the words of the Tanya, and we're going to see that. So what he's saying is that what is it that brings us to joy, tshuva, returning to Hashem, doing good deeds. And actually, we spoke about it a little bit last week, is that a lot of that connection happens the most, like the biggest joy and the biggest connection happens in prayer. That's also why we're talking about it right before Rosh Hashanah, when we're going to be spending more time than ever in a synagogue or praying at home, wherever you are. We're going to be praying. And praying is the biggest way, the strongest way of connecting to Hashem and doing what the neshama wants. Spend time with Hashem. Like this is what brings the person to a real fulfillment, like to a real, like that's what makes the neshama happy. Otherwise, the neshama is not happy, and the person is always fighting inside. Like even like take a non-religious person that doesn't have a clue about everything we're talking about, he's never going to be happy because he has a neshama inside that's disturbed, that's not happy. Right? But we're lucky, and we're hearing this, and we're learning this, that our neshama is going to be happy when it's going to be praying, when it's going to be doing good deeds, when it's going to do tshuva, when it's going to come closer to Hashem.
When we happy, it means like the klipa is opening and the all comes in.
Yeah, you're closer to Hashem, right? You're in the zone of kedusha, exactly. Yes, in the zone of kedusha, you're doing better. When you're doing something against Hashem's will, you have either consciously or unconsciously, you're not happy.
It's something like you're reaching to something, you're doing something that you were designed for.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah,
like-
that was well said. You should say, I'm just repeating it. When you're doing a mitzvah, you're doing something you were designed for. Okay, it's like using yourself for what you were made for, and that's what we're gonna get to in this class. Actually, in the whole purpose of the world, the whole purpose of the fact that our neshama came down here. Anyways, so tshuva is about dealing also with things that we did in the past. Good deeds are about doing something with in the present. But tshuva is not just about dealing with the stuff in the past. Tshuva is constantly making our neshama leave the body, not leave the body, but free itself from the captivity of the body and come closer to Hashem. And how do you do that? Through good deeds, through mitzvot. Okay, and that's why the sages say that we should be every single day of our lives doing tshuva. That's what we're doing constantly. We're constantly trying to do mitzvot and come closer to Hashem. And when we understand all this, this brings the person to a true joy for doing mitzvot. That's the goal over here. And this is not a regular joy. He's going to say, there's no bigger joy than this. You're going to see in the world of the Alter Rebbe, there's no bigger joy than doing a mitzvah. And he's bringing an example of a son of a king, like a prince, that left the palace and went so down in captivity, in dirty places with dirty people, with like, and he was stuck over there. And when he's freed from this terrible place and going back to the palace, there's no bigger joy than this, right? Like he knew where he belonged and he wanted to go back, and he was stuck in this most opposite place. And he's bringing up this example. So let's look at the word of the Tanya now. So we're in the middle of chapter 31. This service of God, in which one seeks to restore the soul to its source, is referred to as tshuva with good deeds. This denotes the good deeds which one does with the intention of returning the soul, which is part of God, to the divine source and root of all the worlds. This then should be one's lifelong aim in the service of God with great joy, the joy of the soul upon leaving the loathsome body and returning, during one's study of the Torah and service of God through prayer, and her father's house as in her youth, to the unity with God that it enjoyed before it descended into the body. This corresponds to the statements of our sages that one ought to engage in tshuva throughout all his life. Surely, ein lecha simcha gdola ketzet me'agalut ve'ashivya. There's actually a song about it, a song on those words. Surely, there is no joy as great as that of being released from exile and captivity. It is comparable to the joy of a prince who was taken captive and was subjected to the hard labor of turning the millstone in prison, while covered with filth. and who then goes free to the house of his father, the king. Okay, so that's the biggest joy, like that's how it's expressing. When a person does tshuva, when a person is returning, person does what Hashem wants and returns to where he actually belongs. Like that's where Neshama wants to be. Now, so it's beautiful. The person is doing tshuva, he's freeing himself from the Yetzer Hara, from all the drives that's pulling him down in this world. But then he's realizing there's a problem. 1 second, I'm wearing pajamas. I have a body. I'm still attracted to these physical things in the world. And then there could be like a very big disappointment. It's like, oh, it was Rosh Hashanah. I came so close to Hashem. I was enjoying so much the prayer. I'm in such a good place. And then right away, you're like, oh, Rosh Hashanah is over, and you're going back to whatever your life takes you to. And it keeps pulling you. It keeps pulling you. And we need to realize that this is exactly the problem of the Beinoni. The Beinoni, we're forever going to have this animalistic soul that's going to pull us to all the pleasures of the world and all the things that are not allowed. Okay, so it's very nice. A Beinoni, at least, he's always going to be winning, and he's also always going to behave. But sometimes this animalistic soul that's pulling so strong, for many of us, it's going to pull us to do things that are not allowed. Like we go to a really bad place.
Isn't it weird that the two brothers were Yaakov and Esau? Like the animalistic.
Yeah,
You
it's
know,
definitely
like-
one of the images. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Anyways, so how come we have, on one hand, whatever, we're in a very good place, but somehow the pajamas and the body is always going to be here? That's because of the sin of Adam, the tree of knowledge. When he sinned, in that moment, okay, this snake left some dirt on Adam, and this dirt is with this person forever. And what is this dirt? The Zohar talks about it, that it basically Hashem made that the skin we all wear, that we all have a part of that skin of this snake on us. Okay, and that's our body. Our body is compared to the snake, or it is the snake, the skin of the snake, and that's the body that we're in, and we're forever stuck with it. It's connected with the nails, actually.
No, but it used to be
The whole body used to be nails, and now it's only on our fingers. But we all have that. We all are left with this piece of that story in us, like it's forever. Okay, so even if we're so happy doing mitzvot, we're so happy on Simchat Torah, we're dancing with the Torah, at the same time, we're still wearing pajamas, which is the skin of that snake. We're still have it, like and we're
And
always
the
going to still be
snake-
pulled.
The snake gets a new skin every time,
That's
but
right,
we
renews.
The snake's skin
Yeah,
renews itself.
yeah.
Okay, our skin also renews itself.
I know, we see.
Okay, but we're always going to have this physical body and this animalistic soul that's going to always pull us. Okay, so it has, and that what's pulling us, it has potential to even make us sin. But even if it doesn't make us sin, we're still going to be attracted and have desires to all these physical things in the world. So the question is, how can we talk about the soul being freed from the body? Like that, because we have joy of doing a mitzvah, beautiful, but then at the same time we have this body that's always going to be there and pull us to such low places. Like it's really like two opposites, and it's impossible. Like you can't free yourself and say, oh, I'm free from my body, and you're out of the jail, like out of that, but at the same time it's always there. So what we're seeing here is that, and what the Alter Rebbe is bringing us here, is that we should not mix the joy of the soul with the sadness and the pulling down of the body. You know how sometimes you can have both feelings at the same time? You can be very sad about something and at the same time very happy about something else. We are able to carry two opposite feelings at the same time, like as humans. So the same way, we can have joy for something good and we can have sadness for something bad. Like we can have joy of doing a mitzvah. Well, it's hard that we have this animalistic soul that's pulling us down. Like we're sad about it. Like we're sad about how low our body takes us. Okay, so it is a conflict, and that's what makes that, the neshama is always going to be stuck in this body. Like it's never going to be completely free. But at least when we do a mitzvah, we're able to have joy also. Like, every time we do a mitzvah, we're able to have joy. It doesn't take away, like the fact that we have a body that's pulling us down, it doesn't take away the joy of the mitzvah. They can both coexist.
We got it.
Okay.
We
So
got
the
it.
question now is, which one? The question is now, when we look at this balance, on one hand, we're being pulled, like we want to do a mitzvah and have joy. On the other hand, we have the body that's kind of pulling us to sadness. What we need to realize, the actual question to us is, what is more important in my life? What has more value in my life? The fact that I'm going to gain joy from my neshama doing what Hashem wants, or that I'm going to get more joy from my body doing what it wants. So it's so you have some people that by them the body is the most important thing, and it has more significance. Okay, and that can lead the person to two places. Either so what's going to happen to this person is that his body needs is going to lead him to happiness or to sadness. Okay, if I fulfill what my body wants, that can make me happy or that can make me sad. If I have a lot of money, I'm going to be very happy. If I'm poor, I'm going to be sad. Like that's what, or the fact that his body is so central in his life, it's going to make the person like feel very, like it can drain the person really down, because he has at the same time a neshama that is not happy and that is not being fulfilled. Because even though the neshama is doing, okay, sometimes you can have the neshama doing what he wants and the neshama is happy, but because the body is so important in this person's life, for him the body is more important. Even if sometimes he does a mitzvah and he's happy, the body is going to drain him down. The body is not going to, like, because the body is the most important thing. So if the body sees that the person is doing a mitzvah, the body is not going to be happy, because by this person the body is the most important thing. You understand? So it depends on your view. If your view is my body is more important, then you end up being sad. Okay.
But you need something in between to balance it.
No, it's not about a balance. It's about being more and more and more on the side of Kedusha.
Okay, the cake. My body wanted that cake. It was wonderful. But it's so many calories. It's awful. But I justified it because Honey worked really hard to do it.
No, but that's
but
but if you look at it spiritually, the cake is 100% good. I mean, I don't know about your, I'm not talking about health-wise, but it's 100% good when you're using it for Hashem. It's 100, you can turn this cake 100% to holiness if you say the bracha, and if you use it to fill yourself up to be able to learn better Torah. So because we're doing something good with this cake, that's why it's 100% good. But if you only enjoyed because it was apples inside and they were delicious and so fresh, and because you just love apple cakes and you just love your friends, then you just love yourself, then it's your animalistic soul that won. You understand? It's about the balance here that we're talking about is not about our diet or physical, the choices, but it's really about, like, it's really the fight between our animal soul and our godly soul. So what the Alter Rebbe is telling us here is that we need to put the accent and make the focus and make the most important thing that it should be on neshama. Okay, because when the neshama is what says whether you're happy or not, okay, like the neshama is what's gonna, if you're based on the neshama, whether you're gonna be happy or not, we have the ability to express what the neshama wants and do Hashem's will. Okay, and then the low body is not going to express itself, and the low body is not going to disturb us, because we know what the neshama wants, and the neshama is the main focus, and we're making the neshama happy. And that's why Chassidut is a lot about serving Hashem with happiness, with joy, because we know that we all have that capacity in the person. Okay, and we're not ignoring the fact that we have Yetzer Hara and that he's bothering us, but we're just choosing what to focus on and what to make more important, what to make emphasis on. And that's what we're learning here. That's new, is that we have the ability to bring more focus on the neshama, as opposed, even despite the fact that we have a lowly body. Okay, so let's look at this in the words of the Tanya. Okay, true. The body remains abominable and not loathsome. And as the Zohar says, it is called a serpent skin. Mashka de chivya, okay, the snake skin. Since the essential character of the animal soul has not been transformed to good, so that it might be absorbed in the realm of holiness, okay, so we're talking about a Beinoni, Yet let his divine soul be more precious to him than his loathsome body, so that he rejoices in the soul's joy. Okay, so what he's saying is that put focus on the neshama as opposed to put focus on the body. He rejoices in the soul's joy as its liberation through the observance of the Torah and the mitzvot from the exile of the body, without letting the sadness on account of the lowly state of his body interfere with or disturb the joy of his soul. Okay, so when you have that fight in between, the more you focus on your neshama, the more the body won't disturb. But if the body takes a big focus, the fight will be much harder and much stronger. So we spoke about the whole process that goes through a person on a personal level, and how a person needs to free his body from the low, free his soul from the low body. And then the Alter Rebbe continues and says that this exact thing of like freeing ourselves and going into a place of connecting to Hashem is in Jewish history with the Jews. And he's bringing the example of the Jews, not an example, but it's like a real thing, that the Jews left Egypt. It's very interesting. If you look at the story of how the Jews left Egypt, it took a year for all the 10 plagues. Like they knew Hashem is taking care of them and is taking them out. But as soon as it was the moment to go out, it happened fast, suddenly. They didn't have time to bake the bread. That's why we eat matzah. Like it was like so quick. As soon as it was like free, it has to be done quickly. There's a big message over here. Like, why is it all done? Like, why was it like running away? Why did they have to run away? They knew power is letting them free. They knew Hashem is saving them. Why run away? Why this like quick process? So what we see here is that Egypt and the Jews is not just two people, but it's also the two spiritual worlds. Okay, the whole Egypt represents impurity, and the fact that the Jews represent holiness. Okay, so as long as the Jews were in Egypt, it was basically holy people, down in a world full of impurity, to the point that they were at 49 levels down of impurity. Like they were minus 49 of impurity. Okay, they were really, really, really low. They were completely, not completely, but they were very assimilated, very, very assimilated. They became completely impure, they became almost indigenous. It says that they used their language, they used their clothes, like they changed, like it was really. So now, on one hand, the neshama, the Jews wanted to be free, right? They wanted to escape. The neshama wants to be free. But on the other hand, it's deep in the impurity of Egypt. And they're very comfortable in there. Like they were captive in there, and they were very, very comfortable in there. So what happened was there was a need to run away, to literally like run away from this impurity. Because if they would stay there for one more moment, they would go down even lower to the 50th, minus 50. Okay. And it would be really, really, and that's why it says, if Hashem would not take us out, we say in the Dayenu song, if Hashem wouldn't take us out of Egypt, our children and our great children and everybody would still be slaves in Egypt to Pharaoh. Like if that would not happen, we would still be there. So if Hashem would not get involved and take us out so quickly and like make us run away, we would still be there forever, literally. So when we came out, okay, it says that when we came out of Egypt, we weren't even wearing pajamas. It says that they were naked, like the arum ve'eria. No, it says that like we had a certain nakedness. They came out with nothing. Okay, and what does it? The sages explain that they were empty of mitzvot. They were so low that they had nothing to even like. They were really low, and Hashem gave them 2 mitzvot: the blood of Pesach and the blood of Milah. Okay, so in order to dress them up, to put on some clothing on them, so that they should be able to to be ready for coming out of Egypt. So this was like it was a running away, a spiritual running away. Okay, so Like, and actually, so they came out of this impurity of Egypt, but the impurity inside of them didn't leave them. Like so they physically came out of Egypt, but they were still completely impure. And inside of them, they still had all the Egyptians' habits, and they were like completely, and that's not in one day all coming out. So that's why actually they needed to spend 49 days getting out of there before they received the Torah, to fix all the, to come to a little bit of a ground zero, not even high, but to a little bit. So even though they had so much impurity left inside of them, and they were like, they came out in such a terrible state, we're still celebrating Pesach with joy, right? Because we're not letting this physical body hurt the happiness of the mitzvah, the happiness of running, of this freeing, right? So we can have both. What I'm showing you is that we can have both at the same time. They were happy to go out, but at the same time, you know, they were still captive to a certain extent, but there was still a certain happiness of going out, and that's why we celebrate Pesach in that way. We celebrate with matzah, that they came out fast. So this whole concept of coming out of Egypt is an example for how for how every single person comes out of his own shell. How our neshama frees from our body when we do teshuvah. Okay, our body is Mitzrayim, our body is Egypt, our body is like, we're captive in our body. And when we come out of Egypt, we need to like leave this body and do something that Hashem wants. And how should we do it? What are we learning from this story? Sometimes it needs to be done rapidly. Sometimes it needs to be done quick, because otherwise we get, it's hard to get out. If we stay 1 minute longer in this terrible state, we're going to stay there. So sometimes we need to do that jump, that quick jump. And sometimes we have to do it strong, like Hashem had to take us out with a strong hand. It says, "Biyad chazaka." Like sometimes you have to do it like by force. If it wouldn't be done by force, it wouldn't take them out that way. We would still be there, right? So, and even after we came out of Egypt, we still have this negative stuff staying in us. So even if we do a mitzvah and we're happy and we run away, we still have these pajamas on. We still have this body, and we're still pulled, and we still have things to be fixed, and like, okay. But that should not hurt the joy of the mitzvah, okay? So we're running away and we're trying to do it quickly and jump to do a mitzvah, and there's joy in there, but at the same time, we also have a body that's pulling us down, and we're still wearing our pajamas. And very, very interesting. Now we see that the Mashiach, when Mashiach is going to come, we're not, and the Alter Rebbe mentions it, okay? It will not be done in a rush. Why? Because there's going to be no, Hashem is taking away all the impurity of the world. So there's nothing pulling us down anymore. We're only slowly but surely going on our way up. There's nothing to worry about that's pulling us down. In Egypt, if we wouldn't take them out, like literally like by force and quickly, they were pulled. And so it says that when Mashiach comes, it's going to be done in stages, you know, like there's 40 years and there's different stages. And there's going to be nothing disturbing us from wanting to connect to Hashem and doing Torah mitzvot, and, you know, so we're not going to have a need to run away. You'll see the Alter Rebbe mentions it, and it's going to be very clear. This form of divine service, in which the divine soul breaks free of its exile within the body, while the body and animal soul remain in their lowly state, is analogous to the exodus of Egypt, of which it is written that the people escaped. At first glance, it seems strange. Why should it have been so in a matter of flight? Had they demanded of Pharaoh that he set them free forever, would he not have been forced to do so, having been stricken by the plagues? But escape was necessary, because the evil in the animal souls of Israel was still strong in the left part of the heart, the seat of the animal soul. For the impurity of Klippa did not cease until the giving of the Torah. Yet their aim and desire was that their divine soul leave the exile of the Sitra Achad, the impurity of Egypt, and that it cleave to God. So it is written that there is a divine service which consists of the divine soul's escape from the impurity of the body and animal soul. God is my strength and my fortress, my refuge in the day of affliction, my high tower and my refuge. He is my escape. Hashem, you know, help them escape, help them, like, you know. You see, and the Exodus from Egypt exemplified the idea of escape. Hence, now you understand why in the future redemption, it is written that the redemption which will take place in the time to come, when God will remove the spirit of impurity from the earth, and there will therefore be no evil necessitating spiritual escape, you will not go out in haste. hast, I don't know how you say it in English, nor go in flight, for God will go before you. Okay, so it's making sense, right? The impurity kept them, and so that was the hard part. So there's a cute story. There was this person that had two traumas. 2 days of the year were traumatic for him. One was the night of B'dikat Chametz, because he was very scared that there's going to be a drop of Chametz in his house. So he literally worried and worked through the whole night to search for Chametz in his whole house. Okay, and he was searching for Chametz with tears, with sweat. It was very, very hard for him. But listen to the second one. The other one was even harder. The problem was Erev Yom Kippur. He had to do kaparot on chicken, and he can't stand dirt, and he was worried that the chicken will make exactly while the chicken is turning over his head. And for that, he couldn't fall asleep a few nights before. And he didn't know what's going to be. Is it going to be a miss or a hit? And it was like a disaster. And until he finally came up with an idea. He's like, if the chicken is going to make me dirty, I will clean myself, I'll take a shower, and I'll move on. Okay. So the Hasidim tell this story and learned a very big lesson. Sometimes we have a Yetzer Hara that makes us dirty. Okay. So instead of like being scared or whatever, or worry so much, okay, and sometimes the Yetzer Hara takes us down to such terrible, like very low places, but instead of staying there and staying dirty, the right way is to run away from it, to move on, to fix it, and to clean it, and move on. As simple as it sounds. So now comes the main part of the class. Okay. You come to this wedding and you're pulled into the dance. But why do you need to dance with pajamas? Why does this whole thing need to happen? Okay, we have an amazing neshama that was in such a high place. Okay, we understand that this neshama wants to do mitzvot and everything, but why did Hashem make a world where we have to deal with such a low body that's attracted to such physical things? Why did Hashem create a world? Why did Hashem do that? Why did Hashem take such a high neshama from such a high place that was having such a good time, that was in the perfect spot, and brought him to this lowest place, to the opposite of what the neshama wants, for the biggest fight on earth, to such a low place, and it's in a body that he can't get rid of, like seriously. Mm-hmm. And the question goes even further: why did the neshama altogether come down? And the whole creation of the world. Why did Hashem create a world that is so low? Why didn't Hashem create a place where everybody's just learning Torah, everybody's doing only holy things? Why did Hashem have to create such bad, such evil, such physicality? Why? What is this over here?
For free choice.
There's a higher purpose.
To choose
Good, and then what?
And do what Hashem wants.
And then what? Okay, we're getting there. Okay, we're getting there. 2 seconds. Okay, so it sounds like the neshama would be so happy to be right next to Hashem, right next to the holiness, the Shekhinah, and stay there and be very happy. Why put him in a body that's making it terrible and doing the opposite of what the neshama wants? Like, this whole thing is like, and this is a basic foundation of Chassidut. Okay, no, we're getting there. Give me a second. Okay, we're going to talk about it more later in chapters 35, 36, and 37 about this topic. But now he's just starting to mention it a little bit. Okay, and the idea is that the whole purpose of creation. The whole purpose of creation, okay, is to make Hashem a house in this physical world. Okay, Hashem wants to reside in this dirty, evil physical world. That's what Hashem wants. That's what Hashem decided that he wants. He doesn't want only holiness. Hashem wants a physical world where he is inside. Wait, let's explain this a little bit further. Don't worry, we'll have 3 chapters dealing with it. Mm-hmm. But the whole purpose was to take the neshama, put it in a physical body with physical desires, okay? Bring it in such a low place in a world of lies, okay? And then the neshama needs to free itself or work with these physical things in this world and make a dwelling place for Hashem in this world. Bring the truth of Hashem in this physical world, in this physical body. Okay, from this perspective, we see that this physical body and this physical world are not a contradiction to godliness. They're actually they're the essence of what Hashem wants. It's our purpose, okay, to work through and work with this physical world, okay, and bring Hashem in it. Basically, Hashem is in everything. Hashem is in every physical thing. Hashem is in every single body. Hashem is in every physical things in this world, and we need to reveal it. That's what Hashem wants. Hashem wants the godliness to shine in this apple cake. Hashem, instead of being hidden in this apple cake, because you look at apple cake or you look at ice cream or whatever delicious food or delicious enjoyment of the world, we look at it as something very physical, but Hashem wants us to use it, these very physical things, and bring out the godliness from there. Okay, so it's not just by mistake that this neshama ended up in a physical body. Okay, and it's not just that the neshama needs to free itself from the body and escape the body. That's not what Hashem wants. Okay, like in that case, Hashem didn't need to bring the neshama in the body. The neshama came in his body to bring up the body to holiness. Hashem wants this physical body to serve him. You understand? That's the whole purpose of the world, and we're going to talk about it much more. Just to illustrate this a little bit. The previous Chabad Rebbe brought a very good example. He said that sometimes there were train wagons. How do you call the train?
The wagon.
The wagons of the train. People were sitting inside and waiting for the train to start moving.
You can call it,
And
you can call it cars, but
cars. Yeah,
Cars.
cars of train. Anyways, and everything was ready for the trip. Everything was ready for the trip, and there was the gas, whatever. Everything was ready for the trip. Everything was inside, and all that was missing, okay, and somehow the train wasn't moving. Like everybody was sitting there and nothing was moving, and the only thing was missing is that you needed to connect the first car to all the cars behind. Okay, so like you have all the components, but something's missing. So over here we have everything physical here, and we just need to connect it. Hashem wants this connection to happen between the body and the neshama. We have all the components, but somehow there has to be this connection. We need the body to draw the neshama and bring it in this world and make it move and make it all function. So when we recognize this merit that we have to bring the purpose of the whole creation of the world, that when we're accomplishing this purpose of the world, that brings the person to true happiness. When we're fulfilling what Hashem wants, when we're fulfilling this goal of Hashem in this world by doing mitzvah with the body, that brings the highest joy to a Jew, to a person. Okay, and so the punchline here is like this: that joy in doing mitzvot is not even though we have a body, but it's because we have a body. It's with the body. It's not despite the fact that we have a body, we're still doing a mitzvah. It's not like against, but it's thanks to the body, we're able to do a mitzvah. Like the body is enabling us to do a mitzvah. You know, in a neshama, after we pass away, we can't do mitzvot, and there's something lacking over there. Only in a body can we accomplish this purpose of Hashem's creation. So we need our body, but we just need to use it and reveal the godliness inside of it. So the Alter Rebbe is going to mention this concept here, why the neshama came down all the way here. And now in the last class we saw that the Alter Rebbe said how we need to all the feelings come from a contemplation, and he gave a whole contemplation of how we should think and how we should understand whatever, like how to think. And now what he said last week is that so he was saying how we should think and contemplate, and now he's saying that when we think and understand, like he's going to put it also again in the first person language and say what should we think about in order to make our neshama happy and in order to fulfill to do everything we need to understand that the fact that our body came down in this world, the neshama came down in this world, is not just by coincidence, but it's because that's the way Hashem created the world. We're going to need to understand this, and we need to understand that Hashem wants a dwelling place in this physical world. and our purpose is to do anything to do what Hashem wants, to do a mitzvah with our physical body. And we're going to see that he says that all the things that we do is what makes Hashem happy. And it says that it sounds like sometimes we make Hashem happy, even though our heart is not going along with it, and our heart is broken. And at the same time, we're saying that everything we're doing brings happiness. So how does that work? The fact that we have on one hand, we have a broken heart that takes us down, okay, because we have an animalistic soul and there's a war inside of us, okay. But when we are doing what Hashem wants with this fight inside of us, with this brokenness, at that point, there's no more room for sadness. When we're like using this broken heart and we're using our body to do what Hashem wants, that's basically a key to joy. That's the lesson of this chapter. It's like the point is that the mitzvot are the highest form of bringing joy. And I hope that you feel convinced about it.
Yeah, it makes sense though.
It
It
makes
fills
sense.
up so much light that there's no room for darkness.
When
there.
we also we spoke about the idea of fulfillment, purpose. That's what brings a person to happiness. So if we realize what the purpose of the world is, what is our purpose over here? You know, if we think it's money, and then we never have enough, but it's not. I'll share with you soon a very cute story. Oh yeah, I remember the story. Okay, give me a second. Okay, so here, this is the end of this chapter 31. One may lend this tshuva, the restoration of his soul to its source, additional strength from the depth of his heart, and likewise add a greater measure of light and joy to the joy of his soul brought on by the tshuva. By comforting his heart from his distress and sorrow through reflecting, speaking to his heart. So he's telling you how to contemplate over here with knowledge and understanding as follows. And here it's starting. Certainly, that's what we need to think. Certainly it is true, as said above, that I'm utterly remote from God. But it was not I who created myself in a manner that permits the divine soul to be exiled within the impurity of the world and animal soul. It was God who created me this way. Why then has God done such a thing? To cause the divine soul a part of his light, which fills and encompasses all worlds, and before which all is as naught, to descend into the body and be clothed in a serpent skin and a fetid drop, like it's Stipa is like a bad smelling drop. Surely this descent must be for the sake of a subsequent ascent. That's another concept we'll deal with. That it's a descent to bring to a bigger ascent. That is to elevate to God the entire animating animal soul, which derives from Klipat Noga, and also its garments of thought, speech, and action, by means of clothing them in the action, speech, and thought of the Torah. This subject of this ascent will be discussed further on at length, and will be shown how this is the purpose of which the world was created. If this be so, like that's also like the whole purpose why neshama comes down in this world is because the neshama is going to come back up in an even better place. It's because it's doing a certain mission. Now it's in a better, like the neshama became higher. Anyway, we'll deal with it. Don't worry. If this be so, there is one thing for me to do, and this shall be my sole aim throughout my life, to immerse therein in the thought, speech, and action of the Torah and the mitzvot, the life of my spirit and soul, as is written, to you, God, I raise my soul. In practical terms, this means to bind my thought and speech with God's thought and speech, which are in fact the very laws which have been set out before us. For the laws of the Torah are God's thought and speech, and by studying them, one binds his own faculty of thought and speech with their divine counterparts. Similarly, with action, I will bind my faculty of action with God's faculty of action through performing the commandments. For this reason, the Torah is described as that which restores the soul. It restores the soul to its source and roots. Moreover, concerning this occupation in the Torah and the mitzvot, which brings joy to the soul by restoring it to its source and which banishes the sadness of this exile in the body and animal soul, it is written, God's commandments are just, they gladden the heart. Okay, this is the end of the chapter. Remember the story, a very cute story I want to share with you. So there's this father-in-law. He's doing well money-wise, and he has this new son-in-law that likes to study Torah, and he's not like making money for his family. So the father-in-law told him, so he went to the son-in-law and he's like, you know what, listen, I'm going to give you $10,000 travel around and go bring merchandise that you can sell and make money of. Ouch, I forgot what he brought. I remember the second thing. He brought something worthless. Shoots, I forgot what it was. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get back to you with this story. Anyway, he brought something worthless that has nothing to do with it. I forgot what it was. It was something so stupid, but I don't know why it skipped my mind. Anyway, and then he's like, oh my gosh. And then he's like, go again. And like he gives him another $10,000 and sends him again. And he comes back with this time with toothpicks. How is he gonna sell toothpicks? What is he gonna do with these toothpicks? Anyway, he was really annoyed. What did he do? He got 2 other people to go, and he told them, listen, I'm giving you this first worthless things. I forgot what it was. This first worthless thing, go to the market and try and sell it and bring me back as much as you can. Like bring back either as much money as you can back or as much of something else back, go and sell. And he gave the toothpicks to another person. They both traveled, and guess what? They came back and they switched with each other. The one with the toothpicks came back with the worthless came back with the toothpicks. And he was like all annoyed. But then the son-in-law is like, you see, it was worth stuff. He's like, listen, I sent you with $10,000 and look what you came back with. They went with something worthless, but they came back with something worthless, but they only saw each other. Like it wasn't as bad as, like, basically the idea is that we need to realize the value of what we're sent with. Like sometimes we completely forget what we're here for. Completely. That's the idea. But I have to get the other part of the story that is more, no, but it was very, very powerful and cute. Anyway, there's another cute story. There's a person that comes into the Rebbe for a private audience, and they discuss the importance of getting people to do mitzvot. And this person doesn't believe in, like, if you get a person that doesn't keep anything, why get him to put on tefillin? Like, what's the point of it there? And the rabbi explained to him that it's just like putting on a tie on a naked person, on a person that's like, or wearing like nothing, or wearing gym clothes or whatever, t-shirts. So the person is like asking him, what's the point of putting on tefillin on somebody that's doing no mitzvot? It's the same thing like than putting on a tie on somebody that's not dressed. Like, what's the point? So the rabbi explained to him, exactly. When you put a tie on a person without clothes, you're making him, he starts to feel that he's without clothes and he wants to go get dressed. Like he wants to fit his clothes to the tie.
That's smart.
Yeah, so it's the same thing. When you start doing mitzvot, you're giving a hunger to the neshama to want to do more mitzvot. That's the idea. So we'll summarize and take the perfect lesson from today. So we see that the Jews, they ran away from Egypt, okay, because there was a certain fear that they're going to stay and they're going to be pulled to the bad completely forever. And the same with us. We need to run away from the bad and try and connect to the good. And we need to realize that it's not our fault that we're constantly attracted to the physicality of our body. That's how Hashem constructed the world, designed the world. Hashem put our neshama inside this physical body, and he wants us to do the purpose of the world, to build for Hashem a dwelling place in this physical world with this physical body. That's what Hashem wants. And when we realize that, our body doesn't bother us anymore. Like, it's not a fight. It's just about focusing on how to make Hashem happy and how to make ourselves happy by doing what Hashem wants. So a big lesson that we learned from today is the concept of running away from the bad. Okay. Yes, it's true that we have to get closer to Hashem, slowly but surely, like in steps, especially if we're in the process of doing tshuva. Like, you can't do it all like in one shot and just leave all the bad and jump into all the good. But sometimes in certain situations, it's an emergency. Like, we need to do like something like by force and get out of that bad fast, because if we don't, then we stay in this bad, like we stay there. That happens especially when there's like moments of, sometimes there's a real test in front of us and we think about it and we take our time, should I not? But sometimes in certain cases, like, all we have to do is get up and run. And we see the story to illustrate this, which will give us a perfect concept of how to do this, is the story with Yosef. Yosef was tricked by Potiphar, but the wife of Potiphar. She was seducing him and trying to make him sin and be with him physically. And it was going to be a big
Okay.
sin. And she tried and tried and tried and tried and tried. And at the point when she was almost successful and he almost went to be with her, at that moment, he stopped and he ran away. He literally ran away and left his shirt in her hands. He ran away. And it says what made him run away. It's at that moment, the last moment of truth, of like about to do this negative action. He saw an image in his brain of his father. And when he saw his father, he's like, no, I'm not doing this to my father. I'm not sinning. And so we take from this a perfect example of like when we are in that moment of like about to sin or about like, you know, we're tested. We need to remember we have a piece of Hashem inside of us. We have this neshama that wants to do what Hashem wants. Are we going to fail it? Like if we just put that picture in our mind, we don't want to fail it. We don't want to like, we just need to remember it and literally run away from the sin, like separate from the sin and run away. And sometimes we need to do it by force and by running away and by doing like that jump and not just taking our time and thinking. Because taking our time and thinking, the Jews would have still be, we would still be in Egypt. Okay. So that's the lesson for today. That's, you know, not to always contemplate forever. Next chapter, which I'm very excited about, it's the heart of the Tanya. We're going to be doing that next week, right after Rosh Hashanah, between Rosh Hashanah and Kippur, the heart of the year. It's Perek Lamed Bet. Perek Lamed Bet is a very famous chapter of Tanya that talks all about, like it's a little bit like out of topic in the middle of the happiness. It's about Ahavat Israel, about love. Okay, it's called Lev. It's Lamed Bet, Lev, and it's all about loving a fellow Jew. And it's a very foundational chapter in Tanya, beautiful one. And we'll do that next week. Looking forward.